US President Joe Biden arrived in Kyiv on a surprise visit today. The visit is being seen as a strong statement to Russia and its allies. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the surprise visit and recognized Biden's visit as a key sign of support to Ukraine nearly a year after Russia invaded the country. Meanwhile, the US President has vowed to increase arms deliveries for Ukraine with a new military aid package worth $500 million. This includes more ammunition for high-mobility artillery, rocket systems. He also vowed Washington's unflagging commitment in defending Ukraine's territorial integrity.
All defend Ukraine, and that doesn't count the other $500 million we're announcing with you today and tomorrow. That's going to be coming your way. And that's just the United States in this piece. And just today, that announcement includes artillery ammunition for HIMARS and howitzers, more javelins, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars to help protect Ukrainian people from aerial bombardments.
On reaching Kyiv, Biden tweeted, "Over the last year, the United States has built a coalition of nations from the Atlantic to the Pacific to help defend Ukraine with unprecedented military, economic and humanitarian support, and that support will endure." In another tweet, he added that when Putin launched his invasion nearly a year ago, he thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. He thought he could outlast the United States, but he was dead wrong. According to White House sources, Biden has now left Kyiv. Meanwhile, air raid sirens blared across the Ukrainian capital. According to reports, there were no signs of Russian air attacks, though. US President Biden will visit Poland tomorrow. That's Tuesday, and according to Ukraine's defense ministry, Russia may attempt to disrupt Biden's visit to Poland. For more on this story, we're now joined by our correspondent Anas Malik, who joins us from Lviv in Ukraine. Anas, how geared up is Ukraine for the incoming Russian spring offensive? And of course, now there is this threat of China actually providing military support to Russia.
Well, on the part of Ukraine, they demand more and more weaponry, more and more armory in their arsenal, so that they are prepared enough for a Russian attack or a counter-offensive, a spring counter-offensive. As the snow melts in the east, they're expecting that, and a reiteration to which we saw early last week when the Munich Security Conference was held. The Ukrainian President Zelensky, he went on to speak virtually and demanded more weapons. Even today, during President Biden's visit, the talk for arms and weaponry has been there. In fact, President Zelensky has asked for long-range weapons, something that has not been there previously. President Biden is the first U.S. president to visit Ukraine since 2008, the last being George W. Bush. And since then, so in about 14 or 15 years of time, there hadn't been a visit. This is very significant, and at the same time, the Ukrainian side is trying to ensure themselves that they are prepared enough for a Russian attack, and B, they're equipped enough for a counterattack. The reason they're going on and demanding for those weapons. Neha?
Right, let's talk a little bit more about what perhaps can be described as a historic visit. President Biden visiting Kyiv just ahead of the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And President Biden was very clear in his address before the press that he and his country will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. How exactly is that being perceived in Kyiv? Tell us a little bit more about the exchange between the two presidents.
Well, that particular bit that you mentioned, that indicates that the US also knows or foresees this conflict not ending anytime soon, and I think that is what is going to be the real troublesome part, because for immediate future there is weaponry or there is money that is flowing in, but for the longer run, would the world not get exhausted? Would the Western allies not get exhausted? That is a point of concern that has been talked about even in the common people as well. I spoke to people before the announcement of President Biden's visit, and they were expecting or they were hoping that President Biden would be making a stopover to Kyiv. That being said, they would really want to get done with this war at the earliest for a solution, for a long-lasting solution where Ukraine does not compromise. But at the end of the day, the bigger question really stands is that will there be a compromise? Will there be dialogue? Because it doesn't seem to happen for now. The Ukrainian territories that are currently under occupation, especially towards the east, they continue to remain under Russian occupation, and that is something that continues to be the sticking point, because President Zelensky has been making an absolutely and abundantly clear that he is not going to backtrack from an inch of the land of Ukraine, which what he says has been occupied forcibly by Russia. This particular visit in that context will be taken as a major escalation on the part of Moscow, at least, because they would now go on and harp on these images, saying that, look, we told you so, that this was not Ukraine who we were fighting, but rather US who we were fighting with. So it would be quite of an interesting exchange in some hours ahead, as Moscow would probably, we're expecting Moscow to respond to this particular visit and to this particular exchange.